you're doing it.
We are live on Facebook and recording.
All right, what's up, Facebook? I'm here. Tony, Nicole's with me. Justin's here. We're getting ready to record another episode of the Intentional Academy podcast. Thanks for tuning in. You're getting the behind the scenes look here. So
yeah, sorry for the gigantic microphone.
The big microphone. We're couch casting today because we're in the process of moving, and over there where the table is just covered in stuff, and we can't actually even sit there. So this is what we got tonight. Thanks for being here. This is going to be a good episode. I'm really excited. This is going to be all about career development. So we'll get started in the recording here in just a second. I don't know if you guys got a chance to listen to last week's.
Yep.
I was pretty darn excited about it, to be honest. And I had 3 things I wrote down that I wanted to think about, which of course are sitting over there.
Over where?
There. I'll be right back.
I'm not going to get up.
I'll get it for you, Tony.
Thanks,
just
Justin. Okay.
So overall, I'm like really excited about how this is going. I feel like every time we do one of these episodes, we're getting more comfortable talking to each other.
I want to see if Erica can hear Justin.
Yeah, Justin, talk again.
Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Waiting for a response.
See if
Internet lag.
Give us a comment if you can hear us here on
if you can hear Justin.
Anyways, in the meanwhile,
Mm-hmm.
micro meeting here before we kick off the recording.
Okay.
The things that I thought were areas we could focus on working. She can hear you, Justin. That's great.
Cool.
Yay!
Thank you. Number 1 is everybody has like really cool ideas. And I feel like one of the things that happens from time to time is one of us will be talking and say a cool idea, and that'll remind somebody else of an idea, and they instantly say it, which just railroads right over the previous idea before anybody gets a chance to digest it. And so it would be cool if we could, not always, but focus on responding to one idea at a time. So like somebody makes a point and you either ask a question to clarify it or maybe elaborate on it before transitioning to another one. Like that might be a thing that we could do just to, because there were like a couple times where it was like 18 bullet points in 3 minutes. It was like really quick because it's like, I've got an idea. Oh, don't buy your books yet. And then it's like, wait a minute, weren't we talking about moving in?
Yeah.
You know? So
I mean, that's part of the spontaneity of having a conversation.
Sure.
But,
so don't go crazy with what I'm saying here.
But we could try and end an idea and add another.
This is more me than you, but from time to time we're all guilty of giving these long preambles before we say an idea. So focus on putting the because after the statement instead of before it. So one of the things that I think is really important, because I'm focused on giving clear instructions to people, and I really want them to understand what I'm saying, and then saying something. You see what I mean?
Yes, I hear you do it quite often.
I'm great at that. So that's me. And then the only other thing I was going to say is I think that we need to drive home instructions for people on how to ask the questions. So for every question that we're about to do, power almost went. We got it. You still there, Justin?
Yeah, everything's fine. Cool. Everything's up. I saw it flicker though.
Yeah. Somebody rolled old Sparky. So
what do you mean how to ask the question?
Okay, so I think we should add a little micro segment before each question that's on our next caller, kind of a thing. So where we could say something like, our next question comes from an Instagram direct message. If you got a question, you can ask it by sending a direct message to @TheTonyFerrar, and then read the question. Or if it's a audio question from Anchor, say, our next question comes from Anchor. If you've got a question about Anchor,
you can do that every question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like 4 seconds, just to drive home that this is a participatory thing. So
I can't read that, so
that's okay. I'm
monitoring
it. Yeah, it's cool. That's all I had.
Okay, cool. Justin, anything from you?
No.
Yeah, I thought we sounded pretty great.
Cool.
Actually.
So I'm like 97% of the way prepped for this thing. I was going to rattle off the 15 pro skills, which I don't have in front of me. So that's going to be helpful.
His own content.
What do you mean
Well,
professional skills? Like,
if you got 15 things to say, that's a lot to memorize.
well, yeah, but
Our son is in his bed, not sleeping, saying the
Yeah.
alphabet.
He's telling you the 15 things.
Thanks, buddy.
he's literally saying the alphabet over and over again.
Not sure if you guys can hear it, but
Could be worse.
we can.
Could be having like a seance or something.
He just gets so excited. It's hilarious. He goes, A, B, C, D, E, F.
All right,
Just
so
yells.
we're probably going to need to post micro show notes on this one, Justin, because when you list 15 things to people, you know.
Can we not read all of them? You just like spew a couple? That seems like a lot.
That seems good. We'll do that. All right, I am ready to go when you guys are.
We're running, so it's
We're going.
who's
Okay.
clapping?
Moment.
All right, so I'll do 3 claps and a little welcome to the show. I like the way we did it last time where we each said our names. So let's do that again. You ready?
Sure.
Hey there, and welcome to the Intentional Academy podcast. I'm Tony Farrar.
I'm Nicole Farrar.
And I'm Justin Thomas.
We're so excited that you're listening to us tonight. We're going to talk about career development. What's it take to be successful today? And so here we go. Where we wanted to start was talking about 15 professional skills that everybody needs. And where this came from is a link. We'll post a link. An article written by Forbes where they polled everybody in the recruiting business and said, what are you looking for? And I found the list really interesting. I won't read all of it to you here, but some of the things that are on it are action-oriented or confidence and passionate, the ability to write and speak and give presentations. And it doesn't really matter what field you're in. These are things that you need to know how to do and feel comfortable doing to be successful.
I think it's also important to note that if you look at these items, you can reference that ability from something you may not have thought was useful. So when people say, I don't have any experience, I've never had a job before, I've never, it's like, there are a lot of other ways that you can learn these skills
Right.
and show that to your future employer by saying, I'm action oriented for whatever reason.
So what we want to encourage you to do, we'll post the full list. There's 15 of them. Rate yourself. How good do you feel about your ability in each of these things? What do people say about you in each of these 15 things? And that gives you an ability now to audit your activities. Are you doing things as a student, as a young professional, that are causing you not just to demonstrate that you've got these skills, but also grow in them? Are you getting better at them? So that's kind of the first
Cool.
part of this. Second thing I wanted to bring up before we get to the questions here is the need to network. One of my favorite sayings is, you can't dig a well when you're thirsty. It's already too late. Networking is a thing that you need to engage in continuously, and you already do it with your friends and your family. But what we want to do is talk about starting to take those same things that you do and map them to the professional world so that people see you as a contributing member to the professional community. And the nice thing is you can do this as a student even before you have many technical skills to offer. You still have things that you can bring to the conversation, things like connection and attention, just by sharing people's things. So
Asking questions. Constant, hey, so the person may have a mentor of yours, you can constantly just ask them, well, not berate them, but, just show interest in their field of study that,
absolutely.
And not only that, but it'll educate you in ways you weren't aware of if that's a field you really do want to be a part of. I feel like there are so many misconceptions about certain fields. You think you know what it is, but you really don't until you kind of dig deep. And by asking those questions, you're like, wow, that's not interesting at all to me. Or, wow, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like a lot of people go into a certain major with this preconceived notion of this is what people with this degree or this form of education do.
Yep.
And that's just the one thing that you heard of.
Yep.
And there are more options than that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's really cool.
Reminds me of the thing you were telling me the other day about the person you were talking to.
Yeah.
Essentially, one of the people he was mentoring had said, I'm working on this program and it's only for this one specific thing and it's totally useless and I feel like I'm stuck in a rut. And you're like, really? Because I use that and this and that. And
spoiler alert, the full story's coming later.
Is it?
Yeah, we'll tell it, I promise.
Well, essentially they were learning something they thought was only useful for one thing.
Right. You don't know what you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. Well,
right. And that's a really fun thing. So I've been talking with people a lot about how to network using LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, that'll be $100 for the sponsored ad that you just gave us. Not really. Ooh, cool comment. We'll get to that in just a second. What I think you need to focus on when you're using LinkedIn is connecting with human beings. Everybody follows people. Everybody browses the job postings and things like that. Focuses on the business. What I want people to start doing is jump on to things like LinkedIn and do a search for an industry, mechanical engineering or public relations, whatever it is, along with a location. And what you get are people. And you'll see now where these people work. And it's a bunch of mostly companies you'll probably never have heard of. And so it's this opportunity to really see what's going on in the field. What most people now do when they're spamming out trying to build this network is they just hit connect to every single person on that they spot, which is very inauthentic and doesn't really come with much success because they have to accept that invitation and a lot don't. So what I've been telling people to do lately is there's an option if you click one layer deeper with the little ... thing where you can follow somebody instead of connecting with them. And what's neat is they don't actually get a notification, but things that they post start showing up on your news feed. And now you can like those things and share those things and start seeing what's going on in your industry or your field of study. Basically, it's like a free education in the real world. And then once you start to see that, you can join that conversation. You could drop links. You could start sharing your own things, maybe build your own platform where you start maybe creating somewhere and sharing it there. And over time, what happens is people start associating you with that industry and seeing you as a member of it. So coming in from Instagram Live, which you can also watch the show on Instagram Live when we're recording it. Really neat thing saying that most local communities also have network events for varying fields. And so there's a lot of people that are holding these events in different industries, and you can get out there and get known and start to meet people. And it's also a really great way to start finding a mentor, which brings me to my last little thing I wanted to say, which is that mentorship is so darn important. We got a question on that last week. Now that I've had a chance to digest and we've all thought about it, we're actually going to return to that question and talk about mentoring more as we get farther on in the episode. So hang on there. But check things like Facebook and the local websites, chapters for professional organizations. You should join those, by the way, and start to see what's happening in your world. And, for 10 minutes a day, you can contribute a little bit to the conversation. It's amazing how rich your network can be if you do that, so that when you find yourself on the job market or needing an investor or whatever the thing is, you're not contacting strangers for the first time and asking them for something.
Yeah, it's amazing how much time we spend socially and how little time you need to spend networking professionally to be successful. It just doesn't take that much time,
right. Hey, that was cool. You want to answer some questions?
Sure.
Sure.
I can't wait to hear Justin's voice. That was quite...
I ranted. This is what happens when I make too many bullet points ahead of time.
I know.
People will live. What we can do now is...
I like your voice.
We can do a little A/B testing and see if more people turn this one off than previous episodes, in which case we know Tony needs to shut his mouth.
I'll flag it.
Justin's not making any comments.
Nope.
It's because you were like watching hockey or something, weren't you?
Hockey's not on right now.
He's like
There's always hockey.
Playing 2 video games on his quadruple monitor.
Wow. I do have 4 monitors, not playing video games.
Do you really have 4 monitors? I was exaggerating.
I have 3 and a TV that can be a monitor as well.
Oh my gosh.
So much media. Questions.
All right, questions. Don't have to go through the process. If you're going to clap, just do it. We can follow along.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is, do you want to just read the questions for the live stream and then I'll edit them in like last time? I think that worked pretty well.
It's fine.
Yeah. Whatever works for you. Just tell us when you want to clap and when you want to talk.
All right. So I'm going to clap so we can find it. And Nicole, why don't you give us one of the let's get to some questions thing and then go ahead and say our first question was from an Anchor call-in. If you'd like to call in, like give the instructions. Or do you want me to do it?
You can do that. That's
okay. Fine. I'm driving tonight.
It's part of our testing to see if people
I'm the worst host though. Not host. What's the word? Producer. Whatever.
Yeah, you're no Roz.
Nice. All right. I'm clapping and then I'm talking.
You don't have to say that every time.
Hey, you're going to clap first?
Shut up, you. So our first question tonight comes from an Anchor call-in. If you'd like to ask a question, you can use the Anchor app right on your phone. Find me at the Tony Farrar, and you can actually call and leave a voicemail like this person did.
Super easy, super simple.
Anyways, that's enough. Okay, so now for the live streamers out there, here's the question.
All right, question is it okay to take a gap year or a break from school? Should we worry about what other people will think?
Who wants to go first?
Not you.
Not you. Hashtag not Tony.
That will be attached to the stream.
Nice.
You want to go? You want me to go, Nicole?
Justin, you can go first.
So it kind of depends on the type of person you are.
I gotta clap again so I can edit that crap out.
Okay.
I thought it was highly entertaining.
Yeah, and it'll go in the end.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, at the end of these recordings, I tag in all the funny crap we said.
Okay.
It's all at the end.
Bloopers.
Here we go.
Okay, so this question it's multifaceted, I guess, because it kind of depends on the type of person you are. For me, procrastination usually leads to just it not happening. So I don't know if I would. There was a moment during my grad school that I wanted to stop and take a break and potentially go back, and I don't know if I would have. So you got to understand how you work yourself. In the same instance, I mean, I've got to the I've started working myself into the I kind of don't care what other people think to an extent. That I do what I feel is best, and then you also have to understand that you have to live with those consequences of your decision. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. We always come back to knowing yourself, so that's a good thing to start with, I think, knowing if you can handle it or not.
Like if you break that momentum,
sure,
would you be able to restart again?
Correct. And I think it depends on how you have been working in school. Is this your after freshman year? Is this your junior year? Where you are in school. I think that as far as I think what they're concerned with potentially is what are employers thinking maybe that they've taken a gap year. Mm-hmm. But depending on what you do with that year could be very beneficial to you. And I don't think that's something that pops up unless you bring it up if you eventually go back and graduate.
Yeah, that's funny.
Go ahead.
Because I don't remember putting like I did this sophomore year. I did the,
Sure.
2000 whatever.
Mhm.
I graduated in this year, and then I gave applicable experience that I did in school, and I
Mm.
didn't put dates on it. So
Yeah, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that. I wouldn't be worried that, oh, I took a gap year and the employers are going to wonder what I did or I'm not committed or whatever the, concern is. But I could have taken a gap year myself. I know myself that I would have definitely gone back if that was the case. Um, but I feel only if it's something that you're passionate on.
Mm.
I don't know that I would take a gap year to just work or hang out or whatever the reason is. I would take a gap year to travel across the country.
Mm.
I'd save a bunch of money and have cultural experiences and things that I could
Mm.
talk about and meeting people and networking and maybe in my field, but with, if you have a plan of some kind, I think that could be really cool, and create all kinds of experiences. So
Yeah,
I think what you do with that gap is really important.
there's a concept that one of my gym buddies recently taught me about called active rest.
Hmm.
And it's this idea that, yeah, you got to take days off so you can rebuild, but while you're doing that, it's it's bad to not do anything because
Mm-hmm.
then things start to atrophy. Kind of what
Mm-hmm.
you're saying,
Yep.
you lose that momentum.
Yep.
So I love that idea about it's okay if you're going to break the momentum, though, maybe we can make it be a decrease in momentum instead of a total stop,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be something constructive. You go on an
Refocus.
exploration,
Mm-hmm.
you do something that somehow still causes growth, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe without the pressure
Mm-hmm.
of turning in an assignment next Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
mission
mind
trip or
break.
some sort of community outreach opportunity, or I got a chance to go to a small village in Africa and build
Yep.
a school or something. I don't know, something that leaves.
Yep.
I didn't just sit and play Fortnite.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, sure.
because
Good.
going and building schools or whatever it is that you decide to do, that's going to build that list of 15 professional skills
Hmm. You can
in
list that
a totally different way.
on the
Yeah.
resume. Because people want multifaceted. I don't want somebody who came in and can spout,
Yep.
the book at me. You
Mm.
know,
And you don't want to be cookie cutter either, so it
no.
could be
Sure.
majorly in your benefit if you use that time wisely.
Mm.
And I get it. Some people pile on the classes, especially depending on your field. I have a ton of friends who are in the what I call sciencey fields, where you're taking like organic chemistry and all this stuff. And sometimes it's just like, oh, enough already. Like,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I get that. I get that feeling of being like, okay, I can't look at math anymore.
Right.
And that can totally reset you. When
Mm.
I did gymnastics, sometimes I used to come back from a week's vacation even better than before I left,
Hmm.
having done absolutely
Right.
nothing,
Oh,
physically.
yeah, yeah.
And so I see the benefit to both,
Right.
but I think
You're
it's
reminding me of my cousin.
purposeful, has to be purposeful.
Right. You're reminding me of my cousin who is doing very well as an architect in Boston,
Mm-hmm.
who met his wife because he took a break and spent a year in China teaching English.
Was that during college that
I
he?
don't know if it was
I don't
like during
remember.
college or right after, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
but he definitely just took a year to go see the world and do some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know the full story on one thing leading to another there, so
Sure.
I won't embellish. But I know he did that, and I know that he's doing just fine now as an architect.
Yeah. We'll have to get the full story from him on that, but yeah. I think to sum up, yes, it's okay to take a gap year or a break if you know you can handle it, like Justin said, know yourself, and to use that time purposefully if it's time you are going to take. And I always say not to care what people think.
Yes. This
Because
idea.
you don't want to work for somebody who can't appreciate what you did.
This idea that there's a right path is insanity.
Or looking for like Facebook validation or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Financially, if you are taking a gap year, plan for it.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point.
Just
If you
wanted to
drop
add that.
below full-time student status, they might start calling you for bills.
Yeah.
Mm.
Good one, guys. All right, this was a text-based question. Are you playing MC?
Text-based question?
Yeah, we
Came in
actually have
through
to read it.
Instagram.
Yeah.
So he wants you to clap and read the question and then leave a gap so he can cut it and put it in.
Yeah, but what's ABCD?
Oh, that's just ideas that I want to make sure I hit.
Okay. Yeah, I can be MC.
Okay. Invite people to ask questions on Instagram.
Okay.
Cool.
I can do that.
All right. Here we go.
All right. So this next question came through when we were on Instagram Live, which we always have running when we're doing these shows. So if you're on Instagram, please feel free to drop a comment question so that we can answer it either live or on our next show, or embellish, which is what we're doing now from our last show. So the question that came in last time on Instagram was, how do I find a mentor?
So am I allowed to start again? Or do you want to start?
It's okay. You
Justin started that one. Nicole just talked. Keep the circle of
Sure.
joy going.
That's fine because I'm required to have a mentor, so you guys can talk.
Oh, cool. Well, you can tell us how you got that deal because that's good to hear. All right, some claps and then I'll talk. So first off, I think that mentoring is really important. And I'm so glad we got this question because the more I've thought about it, the more I've realized just how critical that's been for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll jump into how to find them in just a second, but I wanted to just point out there's 3 different levels of mentoring that have been valuable to me. First is the one everybody pictures, somebody who's more experienced than you who kind of takes you under their wing, right? Somebody who's your direct mentor. The second one, though, is actually your peers. I would say I learned just about as much about my field, whether it was when I was in grad school, whether I was in my jobs, from the other people that I work with who are working on the same stuff. We're all at the same level, but this idea of iron sharpens iron. So it's more like buddies working together. But I think that's a really important thing to just look for as well. And then lastly, the third level of mentoring is I think everybody needs somebody that they're the mentor for. Somebody that you're more experienced than, who on a somewhat regular basis you're able to pour into and share your experience, because what happens is it crystallizes the things you've learned.
So how do you find one?
Justin, how did you find your mentor?
Well, so we're going to focus specifically on the person you can go to for professional career advice and advancement, things like that, the person above you.
Okay.
But one key is you shouldn't, your boss or your boss's boss, really, you shouldn't key on the direct chain of command.
Why not?
Because a lot of times, so especially where I am right now, managers are very they want to keep you close because there's a lack of experience. So whenever they get somebody, they need to retain them, and that means that they won't necessarily give you the best advice at times. They will give you the advice that helps you advance within that pillar. Not every that's happening right now where I
Well,
am.
you get advice, but it's advice to get their best interest, maybe.
Yes, and it's focused on what you do currently. But your skill set isn't like my skill set isn't specific to a technology. I can apply my skill set to multiple different technologies. So I chose somebody above me in the chain of command, but not in my direct chain of command.
And how'd you find that person?
So that was through personal connection. When I was moving from Pax River to Dahlgren, my wife had already moved, and she worked with. She had a coworker, and her husband happened to be a branch manager in another branch. So he just funneled my resume through from his wife to him, and then he put it on another branch manager's desk and said, "I think this guy will fit in your cog." And I've used him
Hmm.
as a mentor since I've been
Oh,
at
that's neat.
my current place for about 4 years.
So source number
Interesting.
one is shake the family tree. Essentially, people you already know, maybe a one once removed kind of connections might be a really good source of mentors.
Hmm.
And I'm just lucky because my wife and I both work at the same base.
Mm,
So that network, I mean, we work in different fields and focus on different things, but that network, for being specific to that base, it helped.
mm,
Hmm. I didn't really have very many mentors to contribute to this question. I think that I connected with some professors better than others when I was in college that I would seek advice
mm-hmm,
from in my industry and my field.
mm-hmm.
And I was lucky enough that they were there to support me through that and help make decisions.
Okay.
I also think what Justin was saying is also relevant to this to some degree. I chose professors that I already had that I wasn't going to have again, that
Ah,
kind of had no bearing or
okay.
any, no influence other than just, you know, I've been through this. This is what I think kind of stuff.
So you want somebody with more experience than you, but not necessarily power over you,
Or
or a review, or
or
some.
some sort of biased,
Right. Ah, that's
Well,
a
and
really.
just understand, I mean, they are developing you to fill a cog that they need.
Mm,
hmm
okay.
So, I mean,
So
it's not
faculty.
anything negative. It's just
Sure.
how
So
it
Oh,
friends
works.
it's
and
not a bad
family.
thing. It's just if you're looking for, you know, unbiased advice.
Right. So we have friends and family, faculty. I want to add to that, by the way, if you've graduated, we love to hear from you. Like
Oh
people that
yeah.
we worked with in the past, I still contact some of my professors from undergrad
Hmm.
hmm
before I changed majors into engineering, and I ask them for career advice, and
Good old Jenkins.
they love to hear from us,
Yeah.
and so that's an option. Like if you did, if
hmm
somebody stuck out in your mind, you probably stuck out in theirs too.
hmm
So reach out to them. Uh, the next level is somebody who's more removed than all of that. There's an idea called a mastermind group,
hmm
and these are essentially mentoring groups that are semi-formal, that people, it's like a club almost, you can join. And
Okay.
so if you search for that, you can find them in just about any professional area, in just about any geographic area. Some
hmm
meet in person, others meet uh, online.
hmm
And those, a lot of people really enjoy that. I lead a couple of those with student groups, but I'm actively looking to join one right now
hmm
for people that are slightly in the same circle I am,
Sure.
and that'd be really neat.
I think this also goes back to your networking advice.
Mm,
And the more you network, the more you'll learn about the people you're talking to and who seems more eager to share or
mm,
answer your
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
questions. And you can kind of get that vibe and kind of continue to go to them and say, I can see you're really involved in this field and I'm very interested, and just put it out there. I'd
Right.
love to be able to talk to you about the questions I have,
Yeah.
and that slowly builds that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a question for Tony. Just y'all
Yeah.
keep going. I just at the end I wanted to ask you.
Okay, we can return to it
Yeah.
then. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, no, just say no, not at the end of the stream. Just I guess I've interrupted you now. I can. It's a question.
Let's hear it, bro.
I when so we had some professors that seemed very difficult or very it was like a brick wall sometimes, and you couldn't quite understand some of the ways their methods and things like that. But as soon as you showed that you wanted to have a deeper understanding, that you were interested, or you literally had a question you really wanted to deeply understand, and you went and talked with them about it, and they opened up a little more. I remember my MATLAB professor.
Mm,
He was very difficult in class, but once you go sit down with him, talk with him, work through some of the problems and things like that, and he saw that you actually cared, that's when he was
mm,
willing to help. Not just people that are just there to get a grade to go through the motion. Once you show that so
You just
the
want to
question
understand
is
the
that
material.
did you have any professors or people that you could consider a mentor now that your first impression was, oh my gosh, I want to avoid these people, until you broke through that shell?
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely. I've had I've had somebody that fits that bill at every position I've held, whether it was undergrad, grad school, postdoc, or now as a professor.
Hmm.
Somebody that I bumped into originally maybe was a little put offing and later turned out to be like a really valuable relationship.
Hmm.
Um, which kind of drives home an interesting side point here, which is first impressions are important, but they're not necessarily cast in stone either. Give people as many chances as you can. I mean, that's a really cool point, by the way. Um, there's a sad fact, which is that there are many students who approach the faculty.
Hmm.
A vast majority of them are looking for points. And it's kind of disheartening to think, man, I went to 12 years of grad school and or college and I show up every day with all this passion because I want to help people and they want to argue about 3 points on their homework assignment.
They don't want to
It's
know the
like
material.
this isn't
Yeah.
why I do this.
Yeah.
It's so arbitrary to begin with. Um, so it actually doesn't take a lot in most people to
Hmm.
break past that barrier
Hmm.
just by actually saying, look, don't change my grade. Show me how to do this.
Hmm.
That conversation was, and then by the way, they usually go change your grade. Sidebar.
And that's what you should want for yourself
Yeah,
anyway, to actually understand what it is you are paying for
right.
to learn.
Cool. Two more sources, real
Hmm.
quick. I'll just hit
Yeah,
them. Okay.
go for it.
One is professional organizations. You should join the professional organization for your thing, whether it's public relations, specific branches of engineering, business. Every one of them, every field has one.
Hmm.
And when you join that, it's really easy to find active members. Just go on their website and look for the people who are organizing the conferences and the publications. Who's the editor of the weekly newsletter? Things like that. Usually, those people are really excited to pass things on to, and they're easy to contact because it's printed in the journal notes or the conference organizing committee or whatever. And those people, because they're active, that's all more or less unpaid volunteer work by people who just care.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times they'll hook you up too.
Hmm.
And then lastly, things like this right here. I have about 2 dozen mentors who do not know my name that I'll probably never talk to
Hmm.
in the form of books and podcasts and blogs that I check in on a regular basis. And these people, some of them have had very profound impacts in my life. And I'll never have a conversation with them ever. But
Maybe.
they're putting those things out there because they're trying to help. And so just consuming that content is another way of doing it. So if
Yeah,
you're
and you'll
listening to
never have
this,
a conversation with Gary V, right, Tony?
yeah, right. But if you're listening to this show, at least right now you have 3 mentors who care about you because here we are.
Yep. All right, what's next?
Thanks again for that one, by the way. Next one. This was an anchor question. Cool. So this is another voicemail question.
You can MC it and I'll read it if you want.
All right. Silence on the set. I'm clapping. Thanks, Justin. Our next question comes from an Anchor voicemail. Again, you can leave me a voicemail. Just go to anchor.fm/thetonyfarrar, and you can use the app to ask your question. We'll get to it in a future episode.
So this person wants to know, how do you know when to leave a company? At what point does it become time to say putting more time in, or when are you paying your dues? When is it time to say, all right, putting more time is not the answer?
Right. We both kicked one off. Do you have something?
I can certainly start.
You want to start?
Sure.
Cool.
So this is a tough one because if it's a company that you love and a field that you love, I can understand wanting to pay your dues. And the only thing that I can think of is like lawyers, It's like, it's probably going to be a little rough when you first start out in a law firm. But I think that is really important to evaluate first. Are you really interested in this company? Have you learned that the company is offering what you want? Are you learning and growing with the company by paying your dues? Because if you're not happy with whatever the field is that you're in, that can be putting that pressure on you to feel like I should probably leave this company.
Mm.
Like what's the motivation there? What's the drive that's encouraging you to want to leave in the first place? Because if it's something I feel that you're passionate about, entry level or not, you should be enjoying yourself and growing from the bottom to the top.
So maybe what you're saying is you've got to see an end in sight to that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I've been really concerned about is if you work for somebody who treats you as, in some sort of an unhealthy or
Mm-hmm.
exploitive way,
Yep.
is that something you're going to get promoted out of?
Yep.
Or is that something that happens at every level of your organization? You get promoted and now your new boss does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get promoted and that person's boss does the same thing.
Yep.
And it's just that's the culture there.
That's what I'm
Right.
saying when I talk about what's the
Yeah.
company you're working for, because I almost feel as though you should never feel that way. You should never feel like you should want to leave a company unless you know for a fact I'm not going to get promoted because these are, positions that are till retirement kind of thing. Like if you don't see any actual potential growth as far as promotions go or anything like that, where you feel like you're then stagnant in that level, then I can understand wanting to leave even if you love the job. The only thing I can think of in my mind is like if you're a teacher, right? And it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to get promoted to principal until the principal retires, like in administrative work. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that's just it. Like, and so I think that you need to recognize if you're being taken advantage of, like you said, in an unhealthy way.
And kind of leaping off of that, working somewhere that doesn't give you enough leeway to be creative or actually think on your own, those types of things are really hard. And every step of your career, you should be looking at the next. And are you currently doing anything that you get to add to your resume and take to your next interview? Like, is that happening?
And the last thing I'll say, and you guys can take over, is that I've had the benefit of the jobs I've been in where my boss was really great at communicating. And if you need to be able to go to your boss and say, where do you see me growing? Is there room in this company for me to grow? Where am I going with this? And having that frank conversation with them and just saying, am I paying my dues? Are you giving me this work because you think it's going to help me grow and there's potential for me to actually move forward and kind of have that plan laid out for you?
Right.
Like that should be something you can talk about and say, I see you going here in the next couple of years. Yeah. By doing A, B, C, and D.
That's something that really attracted you to the position you're in, right, Justin?
Yeah, absolutely. I've realized that at the base that I'm at, it's research and development oriented. It's ship oriented. I was doing a Marine Corps 50-year-old, expeditionary weapons that the base didn't really want to be even doing. So I knew I needed to find what would help me go to the next level at this facility, and that was combat system experience and integration with combat systems.
So you kind of did an internal. That was like an internal transfer where you saw one project that was more or less a dead end and managed to move into a more growth oriented area. So that's an option if you're dealing with it. A comment from Instagram says that it should be when the company no longer has value, whether it's not enough money, not enough growth experience, whether there's personal or professional issues. There's a lot of reasons that a thing could be a dead end, and this is at least a 30-year life. If you can't wait for Friday and then every Monday you're saying, oh darn, here we go again, it's time to shop.
Yeah.
Don't live that way. I love the other day you said, it astonishes me how many people are unhappy in relationships. You get to pick who you marry. Right? Same story on jobs. You
Yeah.
get to pick where you work. I think sometimes once you get a bunch of responsibilities piled on,
Yep.
you just it's that momentum, but it's working against you.
Hmm.
Oh well, if I stop, how am I going to pay this bill, or how am I going to support
I
this,
have
or
kids, and yeah.
yeah, right.
Yep.
So
So
there's
I
time to
wanna
deal with, but
Hmm.
yeah, go.
I wanna go basically the other side of this.
Mm-hmm.
I want to explore the other side. How much of what you're doing and how much extra time you're spending are you gold plating? Are you trying to perfect? Do you understand what is good enough? Do you understand that the extra time that you're spending on this product or on this project, is it value added or is it perfectionism?
Mm.
So in my position, since I get paid by the taxpayer, we can't just work. We have to document every hour. We have to document what fund it's coming from for what we're doing.
Mm.
So basically, I just run out of time. So
Wow.
it's whatever gets done gets done. So you have to have a good understanding of what's good enough. I had to put a brief together. I had a day, and I had to brief a captain with no background the next day. I knew
So you
exactly
do it
what
in a day.
information I had to give him, and I had to
Mm.
know exactly what was good enough.
Hmm.
Which, by the way, is the foundation of how we teach time management.
Yep.
You assign something an amount of time, you
Yep.
do it in that amount of time, and then you cap it. That's really cool to bring up here, Justin, because I think a lot of bosses can be driving people to be perfectionists, but people do it on their own as they mistakenly think
Hmm.
they're doing the thing that's going to cause them to advance.
Hmm. It brings me back to that story you told me earlier about someone feeling as though the work they were doing
Mm.
wasn't actually beneficial to them when in
Right,
reality it was, which brings me back to my point of communicating.
right.
Have to communicate with the people you're working for and with to say, please explain how this is helping me grow. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to understand
Mm-hmm.
because I'm new to this field,
Right.
and I want to make sure I'm on the right track.
And sometimes it's hard to see that, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why it's helpful to ask this person, how do you find your mentors, and
Yep.
ask them too.
Yep.
This person that I talked to has a really great job, and they were about ready to walk out because they all they could think is, what the heck am I doing here
Mm-hmm.
all day, image processing, doing this weird mathematical analysis. And he starts to bring it up. It's the exact same mathematical analysis that I had to use on my jet engine data,
Mm-hmm.
and it turns out it's a thing that's widely used.
Mm-hmm.
He'd just never seen someone use it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is he currently aiming that tool at a thing that wakes him up on fire every day? Not so much.
Mm-hmm.
But that tool plus a little bit of experience lets you grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing that can be used in the future, transferable skill, that kind of thing. So a lot of times people don't realize that,
Yep.
oh, you're doing the grunt work, you had to make somebody else's PowerPoint deck. Yeah, and now you're better at making PowerPoints.
Yep. Well, and that's the thing. Sometimes you do have to do the grunt work. It's how long is it something that you're passionate about, and are you able to grow?
Hmm.
Because you do sometimes when you're doing those things, you don't see how they benefit you,
Hmm.
even when they do, you know. But I don't want people to risk in our society today this feeling of entitlement, which is I shouldn't have to do grunt work. I should just
Hmm.
be, promoted to a position that I love. And you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I can see the other side of people feeling as though they shouldn't have to pay their dues. And I still think that's an important part of learning to grow.
Hmm.
And so I don't want people to mistake that. And
Right.
that's why I pushing the communication
Right.
to understand why you're doing what you're doing and how it's helping you grow.
That's a really good point.
You just explained the entire plot to the Karate Kid.
I was, oh my gosh, Justin, you're freaking me out because I was totally thinking Karate Kid when I was talking. That's so creepy. I really was. That's hilarious. The whole wax on, that's so funny because that's literally what was running through my head when I was saying it. He doesn't understand why he's painting the fence. I was playing the movie as I was talking.
Perfect.
Hilarious. But
One
yes,
more.
that's the perfect example of exactly what I'm talking about. You know?
One more question.
All right, good, because
Yeah.
we're running out of time.
Yeah,
One
we
more
gotta slam
question
this
here.
one.
All right, I'll MC it, then you can read it for the recording. Okay, babe?
Okay, I'm not sure what I'm reading. This one's
The
very
whole
long.
paragraph. You could read the whole thing.
Okay.
Cool?
Sure.
All right. I'll clap. I'll MC. Then you read. Our last question from tonight comes from a direct message on LinkedIn. You can find me there. Just Tony Farrar. Tony Farrar on LinkedIn, and you can send me direct messages, and we'll answer your questions here on Instagram.
So this person states, I've been considering going to grad school for quite some time. I've wanted to go since my second year of college. However, I didn't want to go right after finishing up undergrad because I needed a break from school for various reasons. But I'm having some trouble figuring out if I want to do part-time or full-time. What's your advice on that?
Justin, you can have this debate again. It'll be fun.
Go for it.
Who's going first?
I mean,
Justin, why don't you recap your part-time story, and then I'll jump on the.
wait, what now? What am I doing?
Recapping your part-time.
They're asking if they want
grad
if
school.
you should do part-time or full-time grad school.
Oh, okay.
So just
Okay.
talk about what that was like a little bit and why you did it. Cool.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. 3 claps and then you go.
So Tony wanted me to talk about my experience because I did grad school at night while still working. I had the benefit of my employer. We won't say paying for it because I'm not allowed to. They subsidized the cost of my degree, my grad school degree. So you've got to understand. First, look at are there methods of doing both? Can you get paid, help offset some of the cost, or go full time and take all the costs on and potentially have a bunch of debt? So understand your what's available to you. Understand if you can get a job and they will, as part of your advancement, help put you through grad school, things like that. You also need to understand what benefit you plan to gain from grad school. Will the time and effort show up in the long run? Are you gaining a justifiable benefit from going to grad school?
So 2 big pros that you listed are sometimes it means your company or your employer will subsidize the expenses.
Which is part-time.
Part-time.
Part-time. Yep.
Well, sometimes. The
and-
government has a program that has some people going full-time to school and they're paying to do it. But you have to get selected.
Okay. And then second is that you might have a clear picture of the benefit of going. Like you already know, because your employer is willing to contribute to this, they have some end in mind for it.
Sure.
What was the hardest part, Justin, about being a part-time grad student?
Oh, I got up at 5:30. I went to work for 9 hours, and then I had to leave from there and go sit in a classroom for 3 hours, just for one class.
Personally, that sounds terrible.
How long did it take? How long did it take?
It took 3 years because I took one class per semester, and I was able to skip one class.
Okay. Did you take summers off, or was it every time there was a class?
It was third, so it wasn't your traditional semester length. They actually broke your year into thirds.
What kind of a break did you get?
None. I had like a week, and then the next semester started.
So when you work full-time, that can be difficult, and that's something to consider, I think, too, for
So
this person.
my wife and I both did the same. Both did this, and we had a plan. We made sure that we finished before we had kids. So if you have that option, that's key. If you have the option to get it done before you have extra, I don't want to call it distractions, but lots more going on. Yes.
Were you working on it at the same time?
We overlapped 2 years. So she finished a year after me, or a year before me.
Do you think that was easier or harder when you were in classes at the same time?
So she did hers online.
Okay. But I mean, you both have this extra thing eating at your psyche.
We understood the benefit. And my class was 2 miles from my house in my same neighborhood. And
so if you're going to be tuned out for a little bit of extra time, maybe it's better to do it at the same time as each other.
That helps. It definitely was, and we were able to encourage each other too, because we both understood what we were going through.
It's an interesting perspective because I don't know if I could have gone to grad school while you were in grad school.
Hmm.
I mean, I felt like I barely knew you as it was. If I had my own stuff on top of it,
Right.
I have such respect. I know a couple people who have like dual PhD married couples. It just like boggles my mind.
Yeah.
They probably just said, "I'll see you in a couple of years." Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's just
Which kind of brings me to
crazy.
maybe what it's like when you're going full time.
Yep.
Depending on the field, either way, your career income is unplugged. Right, you're not earning that money, um, and you're paying tuition and living expenses. Now, a lot of fields in grad school, you can get a deal as a teaching or research assistant
Mm-hmm.
where they pay your full tuition plus a stipend to live on.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my situation. And so
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going further into debt for
Mm-hmm.
grad school. I went full time, got a PhD. Eh, Ironically enough, it also took me 3 years to get my master's, even as a full time student, because my research was such an intensive part of my degree
Mm-hmm.
that any little setback in that cost months,
Mm-hmm.
and that just cascaded, and it took me 3 years. I was done with my classes within two, but the
Mm-hmm.
research and the final degree of the master's took me
Mm-hmm.
3.5 actually. Full grad school was 7 to get my PhD, and I was more or less done with classes by the 4th year, and it
Mm-hmm.
was all research. So if you're thinking about going all the way to a PhD, essentially what it is you're a very low paid researcher.
Hmm. Let me ask you one other thing about that, Tony.
Yeah.
You've taught us a lot about the ability to say no at times when
Mm-hmm.
knowing what is too much.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think back for your entire grad school, master's and PhD, if you knew what you knew now and you said no, how much quicker do you think you could have finished?
I'd say that taking on the side projects and saying yes all those times,
Mm.
year and a half, maybe two.
I was gonna say
A lot.
a lot, but not as much as you would think, because a lot of what you had mentioned about research disruptions are just so unpredictable
Right.
that it's not. I don't think there were too many opportunities for you to say, "Well, that's just good enough." You still had to do the research, and it
Right.
still had to be successful to a
Right.
point.
Well, this is hard because
So,
it's so hindsight 2020. Let me
Hmm.
tell you an actual story. Okay.
yeah.
There was a need for me to measure 80 some pressures simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
There's a company that makes a system that can do that costs about $80,000, and it has a 6 month delivery time.
Mm-hmm.
Or we tried to build one ourselves, which is what we did, and we spent $30,000 plus a year and a half of my life before the thing actually worked fully.
Mm-hmm.
That was a time where I should have been stronger about saying no. And I don't know if I could have seen that ahead of time, but
Saying no about you doing it yourself.
right, if I'd have put my foot down, I could have explained this will cost more,
Mm-hmm.
even though we think we're trying to save money.
Mm-hmm. But you didn't know it would cost more.
I didn't. Let's pause for just a second.
Sure.
Instagram, I'm sorry, we talked so long that we're about to get cut off. So I'm going to say goodbye to you guys.
Can you like go
and
live again?
Thank you for tuning in. I can't. I don't think. I have to wait.
Interesting.
But the end of this question is going to be at the end of the podcast. You can listen to it on Anchor, or you can head over to Facebook and actually watch the end of the recording there. Thanks
Or
so much for
YouTube.
being here tonight. Oh, and YouTube. It's on YouTube too. Later tonight, we'll post the whole recording there. So thanks a bunch for being here. I hate that we have to say goodbye right away, but Facebook's still a thing if you want to finish the show there.
Bye. Thanks.
We got a lot of love on there tonight, y'all.
Cool. So maybe your voice isn't annoying.
Ha! Cool. All right, where were we on the question?
So you were telling them that you had 80 pressures. You're talking about if it's cheaper for you to do it,
Right.
Hindsight and all that. I agree that that would be difficult to decide at the time. And you don't know, hey, I'm also going to get these wires chewed up by a bunch of squirrels. And so there's so many things you just don't know.
But Justin, to circle all the way back to the perfectionism thing that you said, that was me.
Mhm.
Your grad school, your master's, your dissertation,
Mhm.
now what I know is that's like an extended resume. It's a reason people will talk to you. And yeah, you're excited about making a contribution to your field with some new idea,
Mhm.
but mine became an epic.
Mhm.
Let me put it to you this way. Two people, me and one of my buddies from grad school. His dissertation was 100 pages.
Mhm.
Standing ovation at his defense. My dissertation was 350 pages. Standing ovation at my defense. The point is, you might not get this until you actually go through it yourself. You graduate your PhD when you decide it's time to graduate. When you finally just stop noodling,
Mhm.
sit down, write the daggone paper, and
Mhm.
be done.
Mhm.
Because guess what? You're going to make a career out of solving problems like this.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to all be done in this one thing. And
Mhm.
so maybe this is a little bit more of an advice thing than anything, but if you're going full time, if you're working on a master's or a PhD that involves a thesis or a dissertation, view that book that you have to write as a degree requirement,
Mhm.
and you can extract little articles for the contribution to the world business and realize that you're going to spend the rest of your life changing the world. You
Mhm.
don't have to do it all in this one book. That slowed me down a lot. So there's a sidebar on it, but really that was just me not being able to say no to myself.
Do you think, because I really like this person's question about part time, full time, and I think that's really what they're struggling with. It sounds like they're definitely going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you would have done it faster if it was part time or slower? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, if you had a separate focus.
yeah, like if he's thinking, all right, I've got this job, I'm working part time, I just got to get this thing done so that you could maybe advance in your job where your foot's already wet in the whole
Think
career side of things that you're talking about, knowing, hey, I can
Neat.
continue to make these contributions if I can just get this degree out of my way.
right.
You know what I mean? I wonder.
Think it's a personality issue.
Okay.
Okay. If you're the type of person who does better when you're overloaded and you work well under pressure, then maybe that's the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I've gone both ways on that in my life. There are times where I've been so stressed that I just go take a nap and don't do any of it. Total escapist, right? But other times where it focuses me. What you reminded me of, though, is a person who spent the same amount of time, quote unquote, in grad school as I did.
Mm-hmm.
But the way they did it is while they were earning their master's as a full time student, they finished all the classes required for the PhD, which, by the way, is only 3 more than a master's in most schools.
Okay.
Got a job, made an
After the
arrange
masters.
after the masters,
Okay.
made an arrangement with the university and the place he was working that the research he would do
Mm-hmm.
at his job could be turned into a dissertation. So now he was working full time in his career, and
And then
3 or 4 years
extracting a paper
later,
out of it and getting a PhD.
right. And the hardest part there was making sure that he had enough research credits to fulfill the degree
Sure.
requirement.
Okay.
But they worked it out.
Yeah.
And I think he maybe took a summer off of his job and came back to the school and did something. But, it was this thing.
Yeah.
I think overall, 6 or 7 years, just like me,
Mm-hmm.
but 5 of them
Was working.
were working at full master's level engineer pay.
Yeah.
I just hope that he didn't have to worry about a patent and the business and the university fighting over that.
It was a government job. He had to deal with ITAR issues the whole way through it,
Ugh,
which is just
I know
a
that too.
light version of
No, but
classifying information.
that's an interesting point in proving that there isn't just one way.
Yeah.
And if you know yourself, you could do it part time or full time.
Mm-hmm.
Just depends on your circumstance.
Yep.
What offers you might have.
Wow, I love it when we come all the way back to the beginning. There is just no right path.
I need full time.
You do.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
There's no way I could have gone to school while working.
I think that's
Singular
me too.
focus. Gotcha.
I think that's me too.
Singular focus for me. And I don't have as big of a problem as you do with the whole perfectionist thing. Like, I would just do it, get it done,
Mm-hmm.
and like move on. And having that end goal makes it easier to do it more efficiently for me.
Mm.
And so I think if I was working part-time, or I'm sorry, going to school part-time, it would always feel like I didn't have to rush because I already have a job, and it would take me probably twice as long.
Hmm. See, and a lot of what I do is learning what I can reuse. So I brief a lot of the same information in different settings. So I can reuse a lot of my slides, a lot of my information, and just either put it in a different block or just understand who. Like I can go more technical if we're talking, to engineers, or if I'm talking to the captain, keep it to bullets. What is important? Let's get it done.
Mm.
So
Man, Justin, I loved the questions you just asked me. That was really cool.
Yeah,
Thanks for that.
I think we did a pretty great job on circling the answers we've
Yeah.
given. So
You guys want to wrap it up?
yes.
sure, let's do it.
All right, I'll give a sign off, and then we'll be done with this. We can then sign off with Facebook and all that kind of stuff. Cool?
Yeah, sounds good.
Clapping happening. Y'all, that was another really good talk. Thanks so much for being here. If you're listening to this, thank you for the last hour or so of your life, the attention you gave us. We hope it was helpful. If you'd like to ask us questions, we would love to answer them on future episodes. Every question tonight was supplied by a listener. You can do that in commenting on any of our posts. You can contact me through direct messages at the Tony Farrar. That's on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter,
Gmail now.
Gmail.
All the medias.
In addition to that, you can head over to Facebook / The Intentional Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Ask your question there via text. Or lastly, and our favorite, if you go to anchor.fm / The Tony Farrar, you can actually leave me a voicemail that we can then play as a sound clip in the episode, which adds a lot of richness to the show. So consider doing that. We're here to help in any way we can. Until next time, thank you again for being here and have a great life.
See you guys.
Yeah, bye.
All right. Say goodbye to Facebook here.
Goodbye, Facebook here.
Thanks for coming by, everyone.
Yeah. Peace.
Later.